Hey folks, how you doing? Welcome to a follow-up video to the How to Break Into Games Journalism video I did a couple of weeks back before I left for Ireland. This is actually going to be one of two videos about this subject, the second of which is going to be a bit more quick-fire, answering specific questions that were in the comments. This one, though, is about a very salient point which came up in the comments, which I almost dedicated some time to in the original video, but sort of decided to keep it nice and tight. But it's worthy of a bigger response than any of the other ones. And it was commented first by Stephen Rivers, who said, "Why would I want to break into traditional games journalism when personality-driven content, i.e. YouTube, social media, Twitch, is where the audience and money is at?" It's a good point. So I work for GameSpot, which is one of the few video game websites left in the world. We've seen a lot of sites close down since I started, CVG, Joystick, like downsizing and lots of other websites, and also the websites that I work for, GameSpot, and ones like IGN and Polygon don't only talk about video games either. They talk about comic books and movies and geek culture and technology and all that other stuff, which you can either accept as sort of the realities of trying to talk to that audience, or that talking about games on its own isn't bringing in enough traffic. So if you look at the sort of traditional area that people say when they say traditional, I mean, magazines are fucking long gone. But if you look at that, it's getting smaller, there's less and less jobs, and also, you know, when you see that sort of trajectory, I mean, that means it's poof, and it disappears. I don't think what we're seeing in traditional big game sites are going away, but I do think that they are definitely contracting, and that there's going to be less and less jobs, and that they may be less and less focused on just video games. On the other hand, you've got Twitch and YouTube, which are just blowing up. Have been for you. Nothing new about YouTube. YouTube has been around for fucking donkey's years. But the gaming space inside of it has been expanding for years, and they are now getting into the live stuff. Whereas Twitch, which was a spin-off of Justin, has been expanding very quickly for the past 3 years, and looks like they're expanding in terms of their personnel anyway. The office downtown is like basically doubled in size, and is doubling in size this year since the Amazon buyout, but that looks like it's still going to be a growth area. Now, this is where I'm going to deviate a little bit. The advice I gave in the first video: make good shit and get better at it, get it in front of people, whether it be prospective employers or an audience, and have a backup plan. That still applies. Kind of applies to like any creative field. I feel if I worked in web development and graphic design for years, I feel like somebody said the same thing, asked me the same question about that, I'd give the same response. In fact, that's like how that works. Build a portfolio, show it to people, and then maybe not the backup plan part, but the first two definitely. Backup plan is very much for video games. But then, if you're talking about YouTube and Twitch, then obviously you're talking a bit more nuanced in terms of audience growth is a lot more important, especially because you're not going to be able to start doing this stuff and get paid for it, so you need to get to that stage. So, having a schedule of videos that go up on either on your YouTube channel, or you're having a live streaming schedule, which is very much, regimented, and then communicating with your audience and building that community and having super users and having them, signal boost you, and having a good feedback loop of stuff that you enjoy doing and stuff that your community enjoys doing, and making stuff that no one else is doing. That's all super important. So the question is, why would you want to break into games journalism when this stuff is being done? And I think my answer to that is, don't try and break into traditional games journalism. There's nothing that you can't do on YouTube and Twitch that won't get you a job in traditional games journalism. I mean, except maybe for writing, and honestly, I would not recommend anyone try and go for a pure writing job in video games ever again. I'm sure those jobs exist, but they are so few and far between. And they mostly involve writing news and writing, rewriting press releases and doing stuff like that, as opposed to doing previews and reviews. And that space, as much as video is doing this, that space is doing. There are no dedicated writers that aren't on video who aren't on news teams for video game websites, and that's the reality of it. So I wouldn't recommend anyone try and do pure writing without having a pretty strong backbone in video. But aside from that, there is no type of video that works on traditional game sites which couldn't work on YouTube and Twitch. And the worrying thing, well, not worrying, The thing that happened in games journalism when I was trying to break in was that everyone was doing the fucking same thing. And they were doing the same thing, which was shit and didn't work. And the reality of Twitch and YouTube is that everyone is doing the same thing. And there are some people who are getting paid for it, who have big audiences, and those audiences love it, and that's great. But then you just have copycats trying to fill it in. So you have Twitch people who are trying to like jump on the next big game. It's like, oh man, you know, Captain Sparkles got really famous off of Minecraft, so I guess when Destiny comes out, I should become the Destiny guy. Or I guess when the Division comes out, I should be the Division girls. So, like, people are copying each other all the time. They were 5 years ago when I tried to get in. So the one thing I did was do something I thought was not new. It wasn't new at all. I basically took, like, what Charlie Brooker did and did it for video games. I looked at what television was doing and did it for video games. You know, highly produced, well edited, outside shot, in like visually interesting stuff, and there was no one else doing it. And weirdly enough, there's still no one else doing it because the games coverage world is full of copycat sycophants who don't, I don't know why they've not copied me. Maybe I should be pissed off about that actually. But like, that's what exists within traditional games coverage, and that's also what exists within YouTube and Twitch. So like, if you're wanting to break into the games world, just make interesting, good work. Don't be married to one platform, be it the platform of traditional, the platform of Twitch, the platform of YouTube. Be somewhat malleable. Find who your audience is. Maybe your stuff doesn't need a big audience. We had, you know, some stuff does. Some stuff needs like massive amounts of people to tune into it because it's super, you know, quick production turnover, and there's lots of it, and it's based on, you know, having lots of communication with your community. But you can make stuff that's highly produced that doesn't need a big amount of people, but it has a tighter, more engaged audience. On GameSpot's GDC lobby sessions last week, the last one had Sharif Jackson, Khalif Adams, and Matt Lees in to talk about the future of games coverage. Matt Lees is a great example of this. Matt has like 10% of the followers that Greg Miller has, but he has a Patreon which he lives on. It doesn't earn that much. It earns really well. It doesn't. He doesn't get that many views on each individual video he puts up on YouTube. But what he has created intentionally is a community of people that really give a shit, and he has like intentionally done things to push out the more negative people who exist in like more having a more mainstream audience, and it's worked for him. He actually has a living doing this with numbers that anyone within games coverage or marketing or anything would laugh at. So there's loads of ways to do this. There's Patreon, obviously. That exists. Like Greg Miller and the guys are kind of funny have fucking broken down the wall for independent games coverage with what they did. And they took a leap and they had a thing that they were doing, and they weren't married to anything. They weren't married to one platform, and they took their community and they went there. And that stuff's constantly changing. It's like Twitch was new at one stage. Twitch is going to be old in 2 years, a year. Maybe it's already old. Who knows? It's not going to exponentially grow forever. Everyone wants to fucking pretend it is, but it's not like, and there are people who will make livings and do great work on Twitch, absolutely, and there will be more. There are ones who haven't started today who will continue to do that, but it's not the only way of doing it. So find out what you want to do. The work that you want to do is going to define how you put it up. If you want to be someone who Twitch streams a lot, then do it. Don't force it, because you'll never be able to pull it off. YouTube, if you want to do more, you know, editing or high quality stuff that has a little bit of a longer tail, then maybe YouTube is where you want to go. If you want to have an easy job where you cover games news and every once in a while, you know, do a preview or do a review or go talk to developers, maybe the mainstream games route is what you want. But what I'm saying is that have that portfolio of work, get it in front of people, and whoever those people are will be the people who give you the work. Maybe it's hiring manager in game site A, maybe it's 20,000 people on YouTube. But just make good shit. And make good shit that you're able to keep making, that you enjoy doing, and then find an audience for it. The reality is that if you go back and watch this video in about 3 years' time, we're going to be talking about fucking Twaglo or Gleepglorp or Flanplu, the new hot way of engaging with audiences. This shit is constantly changing. And though we probably have plateaued maybe on like the YouTube for VOD, Twitch for live streaming stuff, there'll be new ways of funding. There'll be new ways of engaging with audiences. There'll be, like, I mean, Periscope just turned up and there's people making money off that. There will be new ways. There'll be new ways of playing video games. I mean, VR is around the corner. There will be new markets. be it language or cultural or, you know, regional or like based on anything. Like the games market is expanding in weird ways all over the place. Gamers getting older. There are younger kids coming in who play games that none of us played that are kind of less technically proficient than my generation is at actually using stuff, but more engaged in difficult gameplay mechanics. There are, you know, we are opening the world of games coverage up to areas that previously didn't have it, be it in terms of race or gender or ethnicity or location or anything. So everything's changing all the time. There is no fucking one formula for doing this, says the man who put up a video about a formula for doing this. Make good work, get it in front of people, and, you know, have that backup plan. If because who knows? As much as it's evolving and there's all these markets, it's all getting filled up as well. And there's more money people involved than ever before who want to make a living out of this, or who want to make business money out of this, where genuine people could actually be contributing to the conversation. So yeah, that's kind of what I have to say about that. The other thing I will say, actually, just briefly, is that the people who are successful on Twitch have incredible hustle. And it's something that I don't envy, and I feel the same with some YouTubers as well, where the amount of work you have to do the amount of hours you have to contribute, the amount of effort and time that you have to put into cultivating an audience on Twitch, regardless of how, you know, profitable it might be, is incredible. And those people have an insane hustle. So don't try that stuff unless you are willing to really, you know, not have a social life and work late hours and work your butt off. And a lot of this depends on how much the money is worth it for you in the end as well. Because if money is to be all and end all, then go do it. Hustle. Do your thing. If you want some sort of semblance of a work-life balance, maybe, you know, tone it down a little bit, cultivate that audience, but then keep them, you know, expecting 1 or 2 videos. The older the audience, the less likely they are to want 20 videos a week because they won't have the time to watch them. The younger the audience, the more they'll be engaged in the live stuff, but also the less spending power they have. So there's loads of ways of getting yourself an audience that is sustainable for you, that works with whatever work-life balance thing you want. But yeah, word to the wise, if you are getting into the Twitch stuff, and I'm not, you know, I've only got like 6,000 followers, like looking at people like Man vs. Game, looking at people like It's Me JP, looking at like friends of mine who exist in that space, you have to work your fucking ass off. So I would say that as the many words of warning I've given about the traditional games press, I would say that about Twitch most certainly. And then YouTube is kind of a whole other beast, to be completely honest, as far as I'm concerned. I don't have that much experience in it. I just like doing this because I like doing these videos and reading the comments and getting feedback from you folks. But yeah, that's it. I've probably rambled a bit more. There's going to be a second video, which is kind of getting into the nitty-gritty of some of the more particular questions that you guys have asked about, you know, what a working week is like and what type of stuff you should have in your portfolio and things like that. So that'll be up in the next video. But if you have any questions about this one, of course, I'll be in the comments as ever. Thank you so much to everyone who's been getting involved in this conversation. I know what it's like trying to break in. It was different 5 years ago. In some ways, it was harder. In more ways, it's harder now. I think there's more people trying to get into this space now than ever before. But there's also so much more ways for you to get your face in front of people than ever before. And I'm going to talk about that in the next video. So I guess I'll see you then. Also, you can't see my sweet shirt because this microphone's in the way. Goodbye.